Hello and welcome to LFC Focus. So with the channel now being on something like 6,300 subscribers or somewhere there or thereabout those figures, I feel like it's finally time to do that 5,000 subscriber Q&A that I promised you when the channel actually hit 5k.
Congratulations! Congratulations! Congratulations!
Yeah, to be honest, I don't have some sort of reason why it's not been out for so long. It's just I've never really got round to it. But yeah, we're finally going to be answering your questions that you posed to me about 2 or 3 months ago. But yeah, let's get stuck in. So the first one, which players do you think will join Liverpool in the summer? And it's got a nice little comment at the bottom that says, "You're the best." Thank you very much for that. But yeah, in terms of players that I think are going to come in, I think obviously with Fabinho and Keita already coming in, those are two very, very big signings, and I think, to be honest, it's likely that we're only going to see another 2 or 3. I think it also remains to be seen whether or not they're going to be big first-team stars or whether they're going to be more rotational players. I certainly don't think we're going to bring in more than one more player to actually play in the first team as like a crucial player, someone who's going to play week in, week out. But I can certainly see us bringing in players who are certainly going to compete for those kind of roles. I think goalkeeper, obviously, that's a very, very interesting one, to be honest. And I will come on to this later because there is another question about it. But I'm not entirely sure Liverpool are going to go for someone there. I think centre-back, we look pretty settled at the moment. Again, more of that later. Midfield, I can see us signing someone extra. That kind of depends on who stays and who goes. I think you're looking at players like Adam Lallana there. If he wants to leave, then there is potentially a space in midfield there. And I think we do kind of need someone to compete with Oxlade-Chamberlain as well, or at least cover for him until he comes back into the squad. That could also be someone who plays in the front three as well. I think we are at least either going to see someone who plays across the front three, either as a winger or as a striker, and offers competition and potential rotational options to all three of those players currently playing those front three roles. Or we see someone a bit more like Fekir who can play all of those positions but also has an opportunity to play alongside the rest of them as well. I certainly think we're going to make at least one more attacking signing because, you know, if we're not signing Fekir, we're either going to sign him later or we're going to sign someone else instead of him. So I think we're probably going to go for something like that. I think it remains to be seen whether Liverpool go in for some cover elsewhere, maybe whether it's across the back line, whether it is a goalie as well or just someone else to compete for spaces in midfield. But to be honest, I don't really know because no one really knows, and the rumour mill sort of changes every single day. No one really knows where we stand because at the end of the day, Liverpool keep things under wraps, and to be honest, I am absolutely fine with that. So yeah, next question. Do you play football? If so, what is your position? I do play a little bit of football. I'm not like in an 11-a-side team or playing in a league or anything like that, but I do go for the odd kickabout down the park, and I think if I had to pick a position that I reckon I'd be best in, I reckon it's probably central defensive midfield, one of the least glamorous positions on the pitch. I just think I'd like to think I've got a bit of tactical knowledge up here, and in terms of like dribbling and stuff like that, I'm not technically the best footballer in the world, so I wouldn't suit any roles higher up the pitch. And I just quite like a tackle as well. I think it's my favourite thing about the game, is just getting stuck in some of those, and my shooting needs a little bit of work, but I think I'm a bit of a Lucas Leiva in that I could occasionally blam one in from range every year or so. So yeah, I play a little bit of football, but not like a competitive level or anything like that. I'm going to have to zoom in for this one. Would it be wise enough to go and buy a centre-back in the form of Jonathan Tah of Bayer Leverkusen at Spurs' expense, or remain with Klavan, Lovren and Matip for next season, and also ask best replacement for Emre Can for next season? I presume by at Spurs' expense, that means like buying someone so then they can't buy him. I don't think that's the kind of thing Liverpool really want to do. I think Jurgen Klopp kind of has a philosophy of, I'll get this team to be as good as it possibly can be, and everyone else can be as good as they want, but at the end of the day, we've still got the chance to beat them no matter what happens. I think that's the kind of way that Liverpool think. It's not like when Man U bought in Alexis Sanchez, essentially, let's be honest, some Man City couldn't get hold of him. And I think in terms of centre-backs, there's another question about it afterwards. Do we need another centre-back from Christopher Nwanko? To be honest, no. I don't think we really do. I think unless we're really pushing to get in a top-class partner for Van Dijk, you know, someone on his level, I think Lovren is perfectly fine. And I think when you look at the options there, you know, if a Matip or a Klavan wants to leave for more first-team football, then there is a space in the squad there. But you've also got to take into account the fact that if Trent Alexander-Arnold, obviously he's improving so much at the moment, I think he's our first choice right back. And if Klein stays at the club as well, then it's kind of now or never for Joe Gomez to move across into that centre-back role and actually make that his own. So I think you've got Van Dijk and Lovren as your first choice pairing, and then you've got 3 others in the form of Matip, Klavan and Gomez, who are all capable of playing some sort of role, whether that's rotational or providing competition to the main two. So I just think Liverpool are in a fairly decent position with centre-backs at the moment, and it might come to the point further down the line where we do want to improve it. It remains to be seen whether the Van Dijk and Lovren partnership can work long-term, but in just thinking about this window, I think we're kind of fine there, to be perfectly honest. And then best replacement for Emre Can next season, I kind of think we've already bought him with Fabinho, and then I think Keita also fulfills that kind of the box-to-box role that Emre Can was occasionally asked to do, and just does it a little bit better and suits Jurgen Klopp's system better. So yeah, that is that. Srijan Butola asks, you're not a Scouser, or are you? No, I am not. I've got a lot of family from Liverpool. All on my dad's side are from up there. But personally, in terms of place of birth, I am very much from the southeast of England, which is as far away as you can get in this country from Liverpool, which is unfortunate. But I'd like to think there's still a bit of the Scouse spirit in me, and I do absolutely love visiting the city of Liverpool. It's a really lovely place to be. Peter McCarthy says, who would be your dream LFC signing? I think, to be honest, it's Ousmane Dembele, because I think there's no real positions that we could really, you know, we're doomed in. There's no position where I think we absolutely need to fill it and this is who we could put in there. I think you could say the goalkeeper, and I'd love a Neuer. I think he'd be fantastic for Liverpool, or a De Gea, or an Oblak. But in terms of dream signing, you know, someone who gets you excited as well, Ousmane Dembele, I just think the potential he's got compared to what he's doing already, he's only going to get better, and he's already fantastic. And the range of ability he's got, what he can do, he could play across our front three, he could play with the front three. I think he'd be an absolutely excellent signing for Liverpool. And like I said, there's so much potential there. He could be at us for 10 years if he really wanted to, if he signed. And just in terms of the pure goal return, he would be fantastic. So I'd love Ousmane Dembele at Liverpool. I think if I had to pick anyone to come here on a free, it would probably be him. Zahin says, what are your top 5 movies, favourite band / musician, and best LFC kit? For the movies, I have written down a list, because being a film student, this is something very, very close to my heart. So in at number 5, and I'll be perfectly honest, you know, this list changes all the time. I don't really have a definitive list of like, this is the best movie I've ever seen, and you know, this is the top 5 and this is the order they're in. It changes all the time, to be perfectly honest. But in at number 5 here, I've put 2001: A Space Odyssey, because it is just so brilliantly weird, and it sets up another decades or so of sci-fi movies. And as someone who's a big fan of sci-fi, it's something that I was in love with as a kid, so I've always got a soft spot for it as a genre. 2001: A Space Odyssey kind of set the tone and showed you how to make a perfect science fiction movie, or something close to that. And there's something about the coldness of it, the way that it almost doesn't let you in. It doesn't sort of appeal to you emotionally. You've kind of got to reach out to actually appreciate 2001: A Space Odyssey. That's one of the things I do like about it, and it's just a gorgeous film, and one that I really want to be able to go and see in an actual cinema one day. Next up, you've got Alien, another sci-fi film, another film that is a little bit cold, but also very, very tense. And in terms of horror, it's the kind that I like, in terms of it's not just gore or in your face, it's not jump scares in your face. It actually has you sitting there terrified, on the edge of your seat consistently, and you're sort of the whole way through you're thinking, why am I so scared? And I think there's a real talent to that. That shows that, you know, the directors actually had to use some really clever techniques and really thought it through. I thought Ridley Scott does incredibly well to create that tense atmosphere that never really lets up for most of the film. So I think it's really good, and it's another film that's absolutely gorgeous, and one that I wanted to see for about 10 years before I was actually allowed to see it by my parents. So yeah, that's absolutely fantastic. In at number 3, it's Trainspotting. It's a phenomenal film, and to go from like something like 2001: A Space Odyssey, which is very sort of cold, Trainspotting feels very alive. It feels very much like it's sucking you into its world, and I just love the pace of it and the way it's like a choreographed dance. There's so much music and everything gels together so well. It doesn't necessarily feel like a significant set of scenes, or it's not like you're going from A to B to C in terms of a plot. It just flows as this 1 hour-and-a-half long experience that you just have to throw yourself into, and it is really an incredibly well put together film on such a small budget, and it's got some fantastic tunes in it as well, and it's also very, very funny. So yeah, Trainspotting is great. In at number 2, you have got Blade Runner, another sci-fi. I think one that almost gets mistaken for being cold, but I think when you actually get into it, you see there's all these questions about humanity, what it means to be human. I'm going on about the films for so much. There'll be footy chat back soon in a couple of minutes, I promise. But yeah, there's all these stuff about humanity, what it means to be human, questions about identity, and where we're going and where technology could take us and what that says about us, all those kind of things. It's just a film that you could talk about for so very long. It's another one that's also absolutely gorgeous, got a belter score and some really, really cool scenes in it as well. So yeah, Blade Runner, brilliant film. And then in at number one, at the moment, like I said, this changes all the time, it's Performance, which is not a very well-known film, but I did watch it this year for my uni course, was lucky enough to watch it in a cinema as well, and it's just amazing. It's a belter, it's a British film, it takes the sort of the world of 60s pop and drugs and that kind of psychedelia, and it takes the world of 60s East End gangsters and all that kind of machismo and that kind of cool geezers from the East End of London, and just mashes them together into this weird melting pot of music and craziness, and it's really, really good as well. And I've written an essay from it on uni, and that just made me love it even more. It's a really good film. I would recommend it. It's got Nick Roeg as the DOP, who is a fantastic DOP, also did The Man Who Fell to Earth, and it's just a really, really good experience. It's one of those films that really grabs you and doesn't let go, and is almost relentless in how it makes you feel and how much it draws you in. So yeah, that is really good. But yeah, that's enough of films. What was the next question? Favourite band / musician. I'm going to cheat on this one. I'm going to go for dead and alive. If it's someone who's not alive, it is, of course, the one and only David Bowie, because he's dead cool and he's great and he makes some boss tunes. And then if you're going for one who is alive, it's got to be Ezra Furman, who is a fantastic American-based artist. Not very well known, but I would urge you to check him out. He's fantastic, got some absolute belter tunes, really good ideas. There's a bit of politics woven in there as well, all sorts of genres mashed together, and it's just really cool. Some really great songs, and I really like him, and I'm going to see him in September. So yeah, and best LFC kit, I mean, I've got it right here now. It's this one. It's absolutely this one, because when it comes down to your favourite kit, you know, you have kits that you like, but your favourite kit's got to be one that's like connected to memories. And this one, obviously, for me, it's linked to the first time that I really kind of fell in love with Liverpool. You know, I missed the boat a little bit on the 2013-14 season because I was a little bit younger, wasn't as into football at the time, and also just didn't have a Sky Sports or a BT Sports subscription. So I didn't really see that many of the games that season, so I didn't sort of fall in love with the way we played. But this season, you know, with Mo Salah as well, the way Liverpool attacked, every single player is lovable for their own little reason, and the fact that they got us through to a Champions League final as well, which has given me my best ever memories of supporting the club, and to be honest, some of the greatest nights of my life as well. So I associate that kit with so many wonderful things, and at the end of the day, it's a belter kit as well. It is one of the best kits Liverpool have ever had. So for that reason, that is my favourite ever Liverpool kit. Nikhil Vatsa says, which year did you start supporting Liverpool, and which team do you fancy to win this year's World Cup? The year I started to support Liverpool was 2010. It was after the 2010 World Cup. I hadn't been into football beforehand, and I thought, you know what, there's loads of hype around this, so why not give it a go? Gave it a go, thought it was pretty cool. Supported Liverpool. I thought I'll have to throw myself into that because my dad supports them and all that side of my family is a Liverpool supporter. And then, you know, just kind of went from there, and it was a bit of a baptism of fire because I did start off with Roy Hodgson, and that was rough, but I kept going, and I think I've been rewarded for it over the last couple of years with Jurgen Klopp being our absolutely wonderful manager. And then what was the other question? Which team do you fancy to win this year's World Cup? At the moment, I'm going for Belgium. I think obviously they're very much like England, in which they do play some nice football, but they've been untested in that they've only played rubbish teams so far. But I think they certainly edge ahead of England in terms of the football they play. You know, the quality of the individual players and the way they gel together. There's so much chemistry. The movement across the pitch is so fluid. The passing is so intelligent and crisp and incisive, and the amount of chances they create, and they look like scoring with every attack they get. I think they are a serious shout for this tournament. But I mean, this question was asked, what, 2 months ago? And back then I would have said Brazil hands down. So who really knows? But at the moment, if you ask me, if I was going to put money on anyone, I'd probably go for Belgium or Germany, because as bad as they've been, they always turn it on when it's needed. You'll Never Walk Alone for Life says, do you have a girlfriend? Yes. He also says, will you suck Salah's No! Sir Klopp says, for Q&A, your favourite unsung heroes at Anfield since you started supporting, and which current loanee do you think will make it at Liverpool? Unsung hero, for me, it's got to be Dirk Kuyt. I mean, I know he's not an unsung hero in that he is a cult hero at Liverpool, but in terms of what he meant to me when I first started supporting Liverpool, a lot of my best early memories were thanks to Dirk Kuyt. You know, you got that hat-trick against Man United, which I think I was at a christening after party in Liverpool at the time. Not really sure how that ended up being a thing, but I just remember we were in Liverpool and the DJ just every time he was like 1-0 to Liverpool, Dirk Kuyt, 2-0 to Liverpool, dirt count again. 3-0 to Liverpool, it's dirt count again. And I remember just running around and asking my aunts and uncles to borrow their Blackberries and stuff like that so I could check BBC Sport just to see if Dirt Count had scored again. So I absolutely loved him for that. I think also the League Cup final, which is the only trophy I've ever seen Liverpool win, Dirt Count scored what was almost the winning goal in that, and that was a really, really happy early memory of mine. And then, of course, he gets a really nice winning goal against Man U in the FA Cup in the same season. And also, I didn't watch as many games on the telly back then, but every time I did, it seemed like almost every single time Dirt Count scored. It was just this weird coincidence, and it just meant that I really fell in love with him. And I just loved the way he played. You know, he was no nonsense. He just got the business done. He'd pop up in the box, he'd get a goal, and he'd work really, really hard for Liverpool. So I just loved him for that. Current loanee that I think will make it in Liverpool, I think it's probably Harry Wilson at the moment. I mean, there's quite a few that look like they're pretty much done. I think Shea Ojo, I think he's still out on loan. No one really knows. He certainly hasn't done that much, although he might be injured. Who really knows? You've got Ryan Kent as well, who hasn't impressed at all at Freiburg. I think Divock Origi is done for probably this summer transfer window. Same with Daniel Sturridge. I think the two that might have a future at Liverpool are Marco Grujic and Wilson. But I just think Wilson, in terms of his versatility, and that's something that's very important if you really want to break into this Liverpool side, he can play a number of roles. I think in terms of like across the front three or also in the midfield, which is kind of the position that we're looking to strengthen in at the moment with a player like Fekir. So I think it's possible that if he has a really good pre-season, he could have a serious chance to make his mark at Liverpool this season. And he did obviously have a very good chance, a very good go at Hull over the I think it was just the second half of last season. Scored a lot of goals, made a lot of assists, contributed an awful lot, and that's what you want to see. So I think, you know, none of them stand out as players that I think are really going to make it. But if I had to pick one that I would put money on, it would probably be Harry Wilson. Black Phoenix says, are you going to apologise to Mane for unfairly criticising him in the last match? I believe this was after the game against Watford where we won 5-0. It was just another one of those where Sadio Mane was in the right positions. You know, he had all the right ideas. He was doing well, but there was just the odd moment where a counter-attack fizzled out because it would like bounce off his heel or his touch was too heavy or anything like that. And you know, I wasn't really having a go at him. I think it was just during that period in the season where Mane was struggling a little bit, but we all knew what he was capable of. So it's kind of this frustration of like, we know where you can get Sadio. We just want you to get there. And at the end of the day, you know, last couple of weeks of the season, he did hit those incredible heights and start playing really, really well and really fulfill his potential in that kind of creative left-wing role for Liverpool. So, yeah, I think I'd like to think my criticism was justified, and maybe, who knows, it helped to get Sadio Mane over the line and bring out the performances that we did see over the last few months. So yeah, question, what books do you have? Are you a gamer, and what games do you have? I'm not a huge reader. I have got quite a lot of books. Let's go and get them. But yeah, I'm not a huge reader, to be honest. I buy a lot of books and just never get around to finishing them. Here you've got Mark Commode's The Good, the Bad and the Multiplex. There, that's just, you know, he's an English film critic, very, very good one. Very insightful and very witty about the film industry, so that is a good read. Clockwork Orange, started reading that, never finished it, watched the film, which is good. Enjoyed the book, but, you know, just never really got round to it. Into the Woods, very interesting book about things like script writing and story archetypes. Very useful if you're writing scripts for uni projects and things like that, but I just haven't finished that either. You've got Franz Kafka's short stories, which is pretty cool. A little bit rambly, sometimes a little bit aimless in a way, but in terms of the imagery and the weirdness of it, I do quite like it, so I am going to persist with that. And Starman David Bowie biography, which is also a very good read if you're a Bowie fan. If not, listen to the tunes, become a Bowie fan, and then read that book, because I would highly recommend it. I mean, in terms of stuff that I'm actually reading, this is the thing that I'm reading a lot of at the moment. Mundial Mag, you probably know about it. Very good footy magazine. It's the World Cup issue. It's got 150 pages or something like that. That's the current thing that I'm into when it comes to reading, but I'm not a huge book person. In terms of games, I'm also not a gamer really. I like playing the odd bit of games, but it's not really a hobby of mine. It's not something that like I get in from uni or work or something like that and think, oh, I'll just play the PlayStation for a couple of hours. It's something that I prefer to do a bit more socially, like when you've got mates around and stuff like that. I'll just go and grab some of the games. So yeah, you got FIFA 18, which is rubbish, but you know, there's nothing better. No Man's Sky, which I haven't played anywhere near enough of, so I might try and get into that. Worms Battlegrounds, which is just good for a laugh with mates. That's good fun. Rocket League, which is a good game. That's probably one of my favourites in terms of just nice, simple, good, clean fun. So yeah, I like that. And I think I've downloaded Alien Isolation, which is a very good, very scary game if you like the Alien franchise or if you like horror games. But yeah, I'm not a huge gamer, but you know, I like to do it with mates every now and then. Q&A, stick with Karius next season or buy Alisson. I have, of course, already voiced my thoughts on this. I think Alisson, I feel like I'm kind of on a par with the club in that I'm almost getting cold feet about it, because I feel like if Liverpool aren't willing to pay the £70 million or whatever is being touted for him, there's got to be a reason for that. And it's like people will sit there and say, well, you know, we should just pay the money because we need to sort that position out and stuff like that. But you know, any old buffoon can just sit at a desk and write out checks. We don't pay the Liverpool staff to do that. They get paid to make the right decisions. They made the right decision with Van Dijk. It remains to be seen whether they've made the right decision with Alisson. You know, he's not entirely proven at the top level. I mean, he's had a very good season, but then again, so did Mignolet the season before we signed him. So did Karius the season before we signed him. And yeah, you can say it's on a slightly different level, but I think the point still kind of stands. And let's not forget when he played against us, we scored 7, and I'm pretty sure in the game at the Olympico, it's him who just drops across and it lands on Gini Wijnaldum's head. So I can understand why the club are getting cold feet there. I think if I had the choice between sticking with Karius or buying Alisson for 70 million quid, and it was my decision, I think it's one where you have to speak to the player, you have to talk to Karius, you have to talk to the players around him as well and ask whether they're happy with him, because at the end of the day, it's not just about the fans. Those centre-backs and defenders have got to be happy that Loris Karius is going to be behind them next season, and then you make the informed decision there. So it's one that, you know, I think I would stick with Karius personally, but you've got to have all the info to really know whether that's the right decision. Can pigeons still fly if they're blind? I guess so. I mean, I don't see why they wouldn't be able to, but flying, I wouldn't recommend it if you can't see, because it would probably be pretty dangerous. Q&A, your greatest Liverpool team, including subs, online, I presume that's meant to say only, picking players from when you started supporting Liverpool. So this is the summer of 2010, just after we bought in Roy Hodgson, and I have written it out on my phone. In goal, you got Pepe Reina. He wasn't great when I supported Liverpool, but as a player, he's probably the best goalie we've had for decades. Then in your defence, Trent Alexander-Arnold at right back. Brilliant right back, so much potential. Centre-back pairing, I've gone with Van Dijk and Carragher. Now, I was torn here between maybe going for Van Dijk and Agger, because I think Carragher is, his main quality is a leader, and you've got that with Virgil van Dijk already. And, you know, I just worry that maybe there's a bit of an imbalance there in terms of who's telling who to do what. But then I just think, you know, Van Dijk and Agger are both very relaxed centre-backs. They're back foot centre-backs rather than like front foot centre-backs like Lovren or Jamie Carragher. And I just think I quite like the dynamic between Van Dijk and Lovren, where it's kind of the mad dog and then the bloke holding him on the leash. And I think you get that with Van Dijk and Carragher as well. And then at left back, Andrew Robertson, kind of like Trent in that, you know, he's new, still got a fair bit to prove in terms of consistency and that kind of thing. But one of the best, if not the best left back we've had for a very, very long time. Midfield, we're going for a 4-2-4 here, and I have cheated a little bit because the first player did leave a few weeks or months after I started supporting Liverpool, but I've gone for Javier Mascherano. You'll see why when I tell you the front line, because you do need a defensive player in this midfield to deal with the balance. And yeah, I think he was apparently very good. I never really saw him play, but I think from what I've heard, he sounds like exactly the kind of player that Liverpool will need, and hopefully Fabinho will end up being that kind of player. And then alongside him, Steven Gerrard for that box-to-box role, someone who's going to get forward a little bit more and support the attack, but can still do a job defensively. And then the front line, this is where it gets really tasty. On the right, you got Mo Salah. In the middle, you got Suarez and Firmino. And then on the left, you've got Phil Coutinho. Phil Coutinho obviously can drop into the middle, becomes a 4-3-3. You've got a supportive, creative player there. I think I was put off of Torres because when I started supporting Liverpool, Torres was rubbish in his last half season for us, which is the only thing I actually saw of him. And I just think if you've got Suarez, you've got that natural goal scorer already. So why not have someone who's a bit of a foil to him, someone like Roberto Firmino, who offers you an extra dimension in terms of your play. And then Mo Salah, you know, goals galore. A really, really nice player to watch. And like I said, Phil is that creative player. And I think, yeah, that's a lineup that wins your league, to be honest. Reina, Trent, Van Dijk, Carragher, Robbo, Gerrard, Mascherano, Salah, Suarez, Firmino, Coutinho. That wins the league. That wins the Champions League. That wins an awful lot of trophies. Stephen Harris says, and this is a long one, how nice of you to say you talk to us about anything we want. I did say I could talk to you about anything you wanted when I asked for the questions. How about dogs? My three loves are dogs, my girlfriend, and the Mighty Reds. Yeah, fair enough. Anyway, I had a border collie and he was the most amazing creature I ever seen in my life. I bet you a dog person. What is your type, mate? On the footy, I can only say Diego Mohamed Saladona, who's, I presume, some sort of weird hybrid of Maradona and Salah, which would be pretty good. Yeah, fair enough. Dog person, I'm not. I have a cat, which is, well, it's more my family's decision than mine. I'm not really huge on either. I think if I had a dog, it would have to be a docile one. I can't be dealing with yappy dogs because I just don't like that idea of it being excitable all the time. I quite like to be able to come in after uni or work and just be like, let's have a nap, fella. And then the dog would be like, yeah, fine, rather than being like, let's go out for a walk, let's play with a ball, let's run in circles. I don't think I could deal with that. I'd rather a lap dog, to be perfectly honest. So yeah, not huge on either of them, but I wouldn't mind maybe a husky or a Labrador or something like that later on in life. Richard Asker asks, who scored Liverpool's goals in their first ever Premier League win, which came in the second game of the season at home against Sheffield United, finishing Liverpool 2, Sheffield United 1? I wasn't around then. I don't know too many of the players. I'm going to guess John Barnes for both of them, because he's the only player I can really think of who played for Liverpool around then. Maybe Ian Rush, I think he was about then. But John Barnes was all the rage in the early 90s, wasn't he? And so, yeah, John Barnes. Let's check that now. Let's see. Mark Walters and Paul Stewart. Yeah, there was no chance in hell I was going to get that one, to be perfectly honest. And finally, Elijah French says, if you could visit one place, where would it be? I quite like the look of Berlin. I think I'd quite like to go there at some point. I think it's a place that looks cool and it looks like it has a lot going on as well. I think Venice and a few Italian cities and stuff like that. I'd quite like to just do a lot of European cities. But I'd also quite like to do, I'd quite like to go to somewhere in South America or Asia or Africa. Just a city where you don't really know what you're getting and it's just going to be a bit mad and crazy and you just go with the flow. I'd quite like to do one of those. So yeah, to be perfectly honest, just anywhere. I'd like to go somewhere, see what it's like and experience other cultures without wanting to sound like Ben from the In-Betweeners movie too. But yeah, so anywhere, to be honest. But yeah, thank you guys very much for all of those questions. I mean, if you do want me to do more of this kind of thing, then let me know down in the comments below, because there's not much going on with Liverpool at the moment, so I thought maybe a weekly show where I just respond to the comments from you guys might actually be a fun way to fill the void. So if you want to do that, and if you have more questions about the football or general life, put them down in the comments below and I might do a show next week or something like that to answer them. Another thing I am thinking of doing, while there's not much Liverpool games in the summer, you might have noticed I'm into talking about my films earlier on in the video. I'm thinking of setting up another channel of doing film reviews, getting a few other mates involved and stuff like that, because down south aren't really any mates who support Liverpool, so it's a bit difficult to do that on this channel. But yeah, just talking about films, latest releases, old stuff, things like that. Another thing where just let me know down in the comments whether that's the kind of thing you lot would be interested in. Apart from that, thank you very much for watching. Thank you for all your questions. Thank you for waiting so patiently for this video to come out. I'm loving doing the channel. It's been a great experience. I'm really thankful for the 5,000 subscribers and all the people who continue to subscribe to the channel and watch all the videos. It's really good. I have a great time and it's just nice to know that there's this little community growing between all of us in the comments and stuff like that, and watching the videos, all talking about and loving Liverpool Football Club. So yeah, thank you very much for that. Don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it. Hit that subscribe button there if you're new around here. Check out some of the other videos that have been out on the channel over the past few days as well. Don't forget to follow at LFC Focus TV on Twitter, and I'll be back soon with some sort of transfer news or comment show or whatever you guys want. Until then, bye for now.